views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast are the content creator's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Essex County College. The material and information presented here is for entertainment and informative purposes only. It should not be considered as professional advice or a substitute for seeking professional guidance.
Hey, what's good, Jon Inahuazo once again, and today on The Loner, we're going to go ahead and see how fast can I record a whole episode. This is currently the fourth take because apparently I'm still stuttering and I have no idea what I'm talking about. Now, recently it came to my attention that South Park decided not to air the 6th episode of season 27, and now we're just looking at season 28 instead. And we just start this whole episode off with, the 6-7 thing. I actually believe this whole 6-7, this whole joke, this whole meme is stupid. Because I don't really see what's funny about those two numbers. Like, aside from, number 6 and number 7, I mean, those are just two numbers that come up after 5. But otherwise, not to say that I'm 19 years old and I should understand the joke. If I already understood the joke, I would still believe it's stupid. Like, this whole meme is stupid that I don't really need to talk about it further. Like, it doesn't deserve to be a whole episode. Like, it doesn't deserve to be a whole argument where I decide I should record a whole episode about it and then, say some stupid things. So that's not what I'm going to do today. Also, by the way, it also came to my attention that it turns out CBS this morning is not called CBS this morning. It's actually called CBS Mornings. Mr. Roth decided to go ahead and talk more about the Nirvana guitar that I mentioned last week. And also, before I even get started, it also came to my attention that because the Homer decided not to pay, or at least he was already too late to pay the $40,000 for the water bill. So unfortunately for me and my whole family, we don't have access to water, which means I can't even shower. I can't even I can't even go to the bathroom properly. And it's probably going to be more difficult than usual because I've gotten used to this work ecosystem for Ecuador, but I actually wasn't fully comfortable with it compared to America, where there's already a bathroom where you can take a shower, go to the bathroom, and do what you got to do. But because now the water is out, we can't really do that for a day. So I'm not even properly cleaned. That after this episode's done, I'm probably going to go ahead and see if the water works again. And I actually will be updating you guys on that in 2 weeks because if you remember last week, I told you that after this episode, I will not be releasing a Loner episode by the following week, and I will be releasing the Q&A video instead. I actually thought about it now. Either this was going to be an Instagram story like usual, or I'm going to officially upload this as an Instagram video. I actually made a site to upload this as a video, so you can go ahead and remember. And, you don't have to go ahead and worry too much about what you missed on, So that's what I'm going to be doing up on next week over on Next Yards 24 or over on Instagram. Anyways, today's episode is called Transitions in Lost Media, so we're going to go ahead and talk more about that today. So as you may know by now, I'm currently Catholic, and, that means we have to go ahead and spread the word of Jesus, spread the word of God. But here in my family, we don't really do that. Instead, we just go on and figure it. We mostly just have we're mostly deranged and problematic. If anything, that's what I would describe them as, because some of my brother would say they're insufferable, and then, I'm insufferable and no such. Like, he's the only one who would go on and rant as well. And even then, I already talked. If I haven't talked about this, first of all, then will talk about it now. There are some times where my father decides, whenever something happens, like whenever we have a day off, he uses that advantage for us to go ahead and use that time to go work for him. The only issue is, like, what would even be the point of taking this day off if you're just going to spend more time on his business more than yourself? And that's just most of the reason why the Students Resources Center, I think the Students Resources Fair is currently happening, but by the time you're listening to this right now, then it already ended. But otherwise, I just think my mental health, as I said already, is still more important than my own work itself. Because really, when I said you should consider yourself a job, but you also have to consider the benefits and the disadvantages of even having a proper job. So that's probably why I would at the end of the day, I may end up preferring taking a part-time job, but it will also come at a cost of not having enough money to go and pay for the rent, pay for anything else. That's what's currently happening with the water bill, which I already discussed about that earlier. And even then, when it comes to Halloween, we don't even celebrate Halloween or Christmas at all. Like we just treat them as a regular day. But otherwise, we don't even do anything unless we go on campus or unless we do go on campus, then there's going to be a 50-50 chance, not a 50-50 chance, but there's going to be a certain chance you're still going to be seeing a bunch of students going on and having some fun. Especially the art students is going to go ahead and be more creative with their costumes. We have some jack-o'-lanterns, we have some candy, trick or treating. But I don't really see like why would a 19-year-old do that, especially a 16-year-old. But we also have some Halloween costumes, which it's probably we have some costumes as well. Trick or treating, I guess we often just get treats more than the tricks. And I remember last year I actually was reacting to a lot of Halloween. This was a Halloween special that I didn't really like. I forgot the whole thing about it, but I think there was this one film, and it was a live action one. Like this one film, it was just a dumb plot about the Halloween thing, like how they wanted candy, but yet they get toothbrushes, and because of that, they decided to go on and hate the Lau family because I don't think they had enough candy, so they decided to go ahead and sell some toothbrushes. But then again, I said it was important to go on and brush your teeth. Apparently, they only want candy. And that's, I guess, today's episode is not sponsored by, or at least it would have been sponsored. But again, this show or any other show that you're watching right now is not being sponsored, aside from diabetes. And, I'm not even using that as a joke, but I'm being serious when I say you can eat as much candy as you want, but at the cost of diabetes, you might as well just try to lose weight and probably just try to exercise rather than just eating chocolate all day. And the same thing goes to me, because there are oftentimes, even if you see me, eat some fried chicken or at least some chicken tenders and fries, I also have to consider that, I don't always have to eat the same thing all day. So I've also been trying out some new foods such as the schools empanadas. And actually, I do like the chicken empanadas more than my uncle's cheese empanadas. Apparently, I don't even know why, but I still eat my uncle's empanadas. By the way, but at the end of the day, if I ever get a chance of eating the cheese empanadas, then I probably will like that. I will probably will like the same flavor, well, not the same flavor. I think it's gonna be just as good as the store empanadas that I remember eating. But otherwise, I digress. Otherwise, we're just doing some trick or treating. Otherwise, I don't even know what I'm trying to do, because my memory is currently out. Like I don't even. There are some memories that I'm trying to remember right now, but filming this Halloween special in under one take isn't really going to do anything for me, and it's probably just giving me a whole disservice out of it. At the end of the day, like I said already, we just treat them as normal days, and the only thing how we celebrate Halloween is just by buying some candy, and that's all we do. That's the only reason why I probably should be concerned about diabetes now and probably some high blood pressure. But that's all I can really say. Nothing else is really happening for me, so I'm probably going to keep this episode a bit short to make up some time for the club meeting if it ever happens. Anyways, now I guess we can go on and talk more about lost media and some creepypastas. So one time I remember, how Mr. Al called me an archivist, and this was because I was more into the archives. So he called me an archivist because, I actually prefer to go on and archive history, and that's what the story of Extra 24 is going to happen. Also, by the way, just a brief announcement on that show, by the way, or at least this documentary. I also want to, go on and say that currently the script is actually done. The unfortunate part is Gramley is trying to it's actually over-perfecting my tone and my own voice. It's like when it really comes to doing the documentary, it's just forcing me to go ahead and give you a message, or at least give you some advice. The problem is that that's going to disrupt the workflow. And even if I give you some advice, it's like imagine making a whole educational video, because it's when originally the whole video, if originally the documentary wasn't meant to be educational, and then Gramley, if you decide to post or at least paste all that script up to Grammarly, then they're gonna go ahead and force you to go ahead and say, "Oh, give this a lesson, give someone advice on whatever happened on this, what happened this, what happened that, and then advice." That's what I don't really want to do with my own show, or at least with my own documentary. And when it came to the whole intro, it just forced me to give you a message on an advice or something or anything, but it's not really going to work out. So yeah, I guess you can say when it really comes to writing the script, Grammarly is just going to go on and just over perfect your own voice, where it just doesn't sound like you. It's not it's not going to have the same tone or the same vocabulary as you would have already known. All right, hopefully my voice isn't really screwing myself up, because by the time I probably should end this after like 15 minutes, mostly because I have no idea what I'm doing. But otherwise, that's just all I wanted to see on the documentary. It's just that Grammarly was over perfecting my script to the fact that I have to go on and rewrite them. I guess at the end of the day, script writing is still going to be a complicated process. But it's not going to be just as complicated as filming a whole video as a one-man production crew. One-man crew, that's the most difficult part out of it. And that's just not just video. It's not just recording myself, but it's the process of video editing. And you're going to, see more about that once I make a whole episode about, some content creators explaining the word cinematic here on the short form slobs. Again, that's still going to happen as a Thanksgiving special, so don't really worry too much about that. Anyways, for Lost Media, let me go back to what I was saying now. So I remember, there are most people who know me as, archiving some content, which is why in one of the episodes I've also discussed a few shows and at least give you a brief history. I gave you a brief history on the Pockets Club. And actually now we have some 2 new shows. And as we can see, we have What's Team Micaiah. I think that's what it would have been called. What's Team MK. And there's also Nerding Out. So currently we have some 2 new shows. If you want to, if you ever ask me like what's the first show you should watch this semester, I think it should be Nerding Out. Not because I'm a male or anything, but hopefully, if I think I haven't even seen an episode of it, I just think it should, based on some abbreviated descriptions, probably should be interesting to most of the viewers who's listening to the Loner, or at least to a couple of them. But otherwise, Lost Media is when you originally made something out of the internet, or at least on any medium. Say that you make some music, say that you make some film, video, but then all of a sudden, there's a problem. Sometimes when you lose some things, and that's when you probably think it's going to be lost. So that's where lost and found comes from, because there are going to be someone, or at least you have to find that missing item. And if you're not able to find the missing item or where you last seen it, then it's currently lost. That's what Lost Media. I think that's how I would define Lost Media, because currently there may be no copies around that you have to go on. Like as a fan, you have to go and find that content that the original network or anybody doesn't really have. And another example is when I actually uploaded a couple of videos on Inahuazo Studios HD, which was a YouTube channel that I made back in middle school. But apparently there are a couple of videos I produced. There were more videos that I did than just the 6 videos. But apparently now that they're Lost Media, because I never saved any copies of it, so you won't be seeing any of them ever. You won't be seeing them, neither would I. But then again, that's how important it is when it really comes to archiving some media. That's when, if you're a fan, then you should probably record or at least DVR the original airing, because you may notice some differences, behind the final version. If you see some prototypes on the original airing, then you're probably going to see something different under the syndicated version, or at least the rerun version. I mean, that's only the reason why I would say it's important as well. Even then, if I'm already looking at this right now, it also says how, with Lost Media, there's no copies available, or at least the whole discussion about it is completely forgotten, and we never talk about that again. And that's going to be the concept as well with Ecuadorian music. Lost Media, or at least I would call them as Lost Media Ecuador, or at least the Ecuadorian Lost Media, where originally there are some songs that we know about, but we don't have any copies available. And whenever we do have copies available, it's just not available on YouTube. There are still a couple of songs that are still not there, but Musicoteca Ecuador, as I would know him, still uploads a couple of songs, but AI generated, but it just includes some AI generated covers. And I'm talking about the album cover as well. But I'm not really going to discuss about that today. Otherwise, we have, a whole definition behind lost media. Lost media is any piece of media thought to no longer exist in any format or for which copies can be located. And that includes some television and radio broadcasts, and even then it's, we're talking about the primitive days of television and radio. So as I said already, because we didn't really have access to videotape or any analog tape, it wouldn't be possible to go and record anything made from the 1950s, unless if you had a tape recorder, or at least unless if we did have a tape recorder, then you would have already had some hope. The only issue is you're only going to get some crappy audio and not video. I don't even think they could even afford video unless if you bought a super 8mm film, but otherwise you wouldn't get any sound. That's only according to me when watching the TV sign-offs from the 1950s, 60s, 70s. That's from what I know about. Like a majority of the 70s sign-offs were mostly just audio only. But in the 1980s, that's when we're looking at video. But again, because of the crappy video quality, it won't be as good unless if someone has a master tape, which rarely ever happens. Again, that's just another example. Like if you ever if you consider lost media and you find some analog tape, you may find something rare. So that's one thing when I say don't go ahead and gatekeep that media, because if you find something special that nobody has access to, you might as well just upload it. But then again, the main concern about lost media would also come from restrictions as well on copyright. But even then, I'm not really the right person to explain what copyright is, because my head currently is thinking of way too many things to where I'm probably going to go on stress. So because of stress, I'm not really able to explain or at least deeply discuss more about copyright. But let's just say if you're dealing with copyright restrictions, and that's when you have to change some things, and when you have to change some things, you're never going to see the original. It's just not going to have that same vibe again. And speaking of which, when I already mentioned the travel last week, I already said that I already talked about it last week, and I guess in this episode I'm not going to discuss about it again because I don't see the point of it. Go ahead and check out the season 2 premiere if you want to know more about it, but otherwise probably don't. But otherwise, that's really all I can say for now. So if you do consider, if you are interested in lost media, then just go on and consider to save some media, like save most of your content that you're watching right now, download them, and if you still have that copy, then I guess there's hope when you say there are some re-uploads that most YouTubers would be interested in. Maybe sometimes if you do watch the re-uploads, and you're always going to remember the old memories, even if it's just an upload or even if it's just some poor quality footage. But then again, it's more saying as that's the closest we can get, but we're probably never going to get the original masters back. So that's probably all I can say for now. Again, my head is out of the way, and because I have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm actually going to go on and end it here. So yeah, we're going to go back and do another short episode, which is probably going to be around 20 minutes or less. So before I end today's episode, I'm going to go on and just give you the schedule once again and probably just go ahead and make one more announcement. After this episode, you will not be seeing a new episode of LONER. After this week, you will not be seeing a new episode of The Loner, but instead, if you go on XGR24 on Instagram, you're going to see a video where I'm going to open up questions and answers. If I have enough material, then I'm going to make a whole episode about it next month, which is not in next month, but around December. So if I have enough material for most students, where they ask me some questions and give me some suggestions for episode for season 3, and my accent isn't really going to benefit me. If there's enough material for any of these, then I will start producing, or at least I will start production and do all the video editing towards the questions and answers video episode. Actually, let's just go ahead and just keep that outtake and not record it again. You can probably cut this out as well, just because I'm just stuttering and my mind is currently bonkers or something as such. All right, we're gonna re-record it again. Okay, edit this section out because I will be re-saying the same section again. All right, 1950. So that's going to be about it for me. But before I leave, I'm going to go and make one more announcement. So after today's episode, you will not be seeing a new episode of Loner up until 2 weeks. This is because I have to focus on the episode itself, short form slobs. So, hopefully you're prepared for that, because it's going to be, again, the video is going to be more about why I don't like the word cinematic, or at least how would any viewer would exploit the word cinematic without even studying the art of film. So if you're a film student, maybe you'll be interested in that. And that's when I will probably say this episode is technically a call up, or at least, a call to action towards the film club. And also, one more thing as well. Because apparently when I also made a whole response out of them, they chose not to respond them back. Either because A, they've accepted that I'm not going to reconsider their club, or B, they completely ignored that message and nothing happened afterwards. Either of those two reasons may happen. But aside from seeing Issa during this whole fundraiser, that's all I can say on that, on the update towards the film club response. But that's all I can really say. Again, a reminder that because it's going to happen on December 18th for such, near the end of the semester, I will not be premiering the Story of Exit 24 up until around January 2026, which will probably be after the film screening up on the film festival. As soon as, or at least if you want to see early access to that film, I will probably be uploading that film publicly onto YouTube under Go City or X24 on my YouTube channel. If you want to see some early access on it, then I will have to go on and do that, and maybe they'll go on and screen. Basically, just download that video and present the whole video full screen. And probably the only difference is, and I guess the only difference on that is, I may have to go and upload an abbreviated version of the documentary because of how long it is, around 20 minutes or so. Maybe you'll see the original. Maybe you'll go on and say, when it comes to the film festival, they may only see the short version of the documentary, but by the following week, or at least by the following season, I will be releasing the full cut, 20 minutes or such. Hopefully, if it's 20 minutes, then I'm going to release it as 20 minutes. Well, the film club or at least the film festival will only get 10 minutes of it, of the documentary. But if they do want to consider the full cut, then I'll go on and say I will go on and upload the 20-minute cut. But that's all I can really say on that. So again, as a reminder that there will not be a new episode, but I will be uploading a questions and answers video next week on XGRs24 on Instagram. So maybe I'll probably collaborate that with the ACC Podcast Club also on Instagram as well. Anyway, so once again, that's now that we ended today's topic. Again, next week, or at least November 12th, we're going to be talking about some fundraisers. And that means I now have a chance to talk more about the first fundraiser as a whole club, or at least the podcast club. November 26th, we're going to be looking at short form slobs, which I already explained what that is about. Currently, it's in the writing. It's in the process of writing, but I will be shooting the whole video soon. So stick around for that. And then coming up on December 3rd, we're going to be looking at Tolerance Land, where I talk more about basically why I am uncomfortable with women. But I will go on and discuss this again next week, my next episode, because apparently I cannot speak. So again, December 3rd, we're going to be looking at Tolerance Land. December 10th is going to be questions and answers. Again, if I have enough material, I will be recording that. If not, then I will replace that with a different topic. And on December 17th will be it's going to be the film festival coverage. Actually, now to come think of it, I'm not even going to make it, because if the film festival happens the day after whatever. If I already said it's going to happen just before I start recording the episode, that means I have to delay that episode to next week, mostly because it will probably be a Christmas special, and I'm going to be doing a coverage of the film festival. So likely you'll be seeing this episode on Friday, but I'll have to talk more about that to Mr. Odd. Maybe it's a few club members, probably, whether I'm going to delay that episode or not to next week, or at least by Friday. But that's all I can say for now. It's already 25 minutes, but I already said the editor to shorten this whole video out, because this episode has a couple mistakes that I can't take back. Anyways, that's about it for me. I have to rest my voice now, so I'm going to end it. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening, and have a good day.
This has been a production of the Essex County College Podcast Club. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved.